57, I'm going to explain the question, what are the globally systematically important banks?
Firstly, I'm going to explain how these globally systematically important banks came. We all know about the financial crisis in 2008. The failure of many large global financial institutions harmed the global economy at that time. Many governments in the world and relevant supervision departments were pressed for preventing problems affecting individual firms from spreading and thereby undermining financial stability. In order to reduce the likelihood and the severity of problems that caused by the failure of global systematically important financial institutions, additional measures need to be proposed and implemented. On July 19, 2011, the Basel Committee on Banking Supervision and the Financial Stability Board published two papers relating to entities regarded as globally systematically important financial institutions, where an initial group of global systematically important banks was identified. This list is updated annually. In my part, I will focus on the details of a number of policy measures and requirements applied to all banks, especially for globally systematically important banks. The Basel Committee set out the additional capital requirements that the global systematically important banks should be subject to. The higher loss absorbency requirements began to be phased in from January 1, 2016 and will be fully implemented before 2019. Banks will also be required to build up a capital conservation buffer to be comprised of common equity of up to 2.5% of risk-weighted assets, and may also be subject to additional counter-cyclical buffers that can be imposed by local regulators. Additional rules are applied to the largest global banks to deal with concerns that such banks are regarded as too big to fail. That is, in the financial crisis, relevant governments would be prepared to use public funds to provide liquidity to those banks as the lender of last resort, rather than face the systematic consequences of their failure, which will reduce its impact. One thing that we need to remember is that all problems of the globally systematically important banks could potentially have cross-border influences on the financial institutions in many countries, even on the global economy at large. Therefore, it is not a problem for one specific country, and a global minimum agreement is required. In conclusion, based on the papers that the Basel Committee and the Financial Stability Board published, there are two main objectives of the policies. The first one is to reduce the probability of failure of the globally systematically important banks by increasing their going concern loss absorbency. The second one is to reduce the impact of the failure of globally systematically important banks by improve global recovery and resolution frameworks. In the 2016 list of global systematically important banks, there are 31 large, complex, and international banks in the world. They are assessed by following indicators, and team members will give a clear explanation about these factors.
In this video, we will discuss these 5 factors and why these factors make a bank critical of the stability of the financial system.
Hey, this is Leo. Me and Justin will introduce the factors of globally systematically important banks together. See you soon.
The first factor is cross-jurisdictional activity. Due to the G-SIBs, it focuses on the global footprint of the bank. The true finding in cross-jurisdictional activities, the importance of the bank's home jurisdiction relative to overall activities of the other banks in the sample. Why this factor is very important in the G-SIBs? Because that is the international impact for a bank's distress or failure should be very in line with their share of the cross-directional assences and visibility. The greater of the global search of the bank, the more difficult it is to conduct its resolution and a more winding spared to overflow the effective for the failure. A bank's distress or failure is more likely to damage the global economic or financial markets if its activities comprise a large share of the global activities. The larger of the bank has a more difficult for its activities to quickly replaced by other banks, and therefore a great chance that its failure could be cause disruption to the financial market in which its operation. The distress of the large bank is also more likely to damage confidence in the financial system. Size is a factor of the systemic importance. Due to the many banks have the network of the contractual obligations, when a company or bank have already accepted some financial problem that will be influence other related institutions. Therefore, a bank's systemic importance is more likely positive related to interactive other financial institutions. The interactives include the inter-financial system assets, inter-financial system liabilities, and wholesale funding ratio. The next part, Leo will discuss another two factors of the G-SIBs.
The systemic impact of a bank's distress or failure is expected to negatively relate to its degree of substitutability as both a market participant and client service provider. For example, the greater role of a bank in a particular business line or as a service provider in underlying market infrastructure, the larger the disruption will likely be following its failure. At the same time, the cost to the failed bank's customers in having to seek the same service at another institution is likely to be higher for a failed bank with relatively great market share in providing the service. If that bank were to fail while being a net reserve of liquidity, this liquidity would be trapped and accessible to another system member. These institutions would then have to provide more liquidity than usual to process their payments, which means add costs and likely delay. The systemic impact of a bank's distress or failure is expected to be positively related to its overall complexity, that is, its business, structural, and operational complexity. The more complex a bank is, the greater are the costs and the time needed to resolve the bank. We also mention OTC derivatives, notional value. The focus here on the amount of OTC derivatives that are not cleared through a central counterparty. The greater the number of non-central cleared OTC derivatives a bank enters into, the more complex a bank's activities. This is especially so in the context of resolution as highlighted in the failure of Lehman Brothers.
Hi, I'm Justin. Thank you for watching our video, and I also thank Seven and Leo doing a very good job. See you soon.